everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, I recommend different horror recommendations, and I also do beauty, but not as much as horror. Sorry, I've been MIA for the last week. I just got accepted into a nursing program, so this whole week I have been doing, yes, finally, I've been doing like getting my vaccines, TB tests, CPR tests, all that done this week, so I didn't really have time to film. But I'm super excited to be back, and today we have Kat again. Yeah.
Yay, I'm back.
And we are going to be doing a recommendation video where if you like this horror movie, then you're probably going to like this horror movie. So if that sounds cool to you, then keep on watching and subscribe to my channel. And then so we're going to start off with Kat though. So Kat, what is your first recommendation that if you like this movie, you'll like that movie?
Well, I actually had a lot of fun making this list, and I think I have some pretty interesting ones on my list here. So my first one is I think is a pretty interesting one, and that is, if you like Rosemary's Baby, then you will like All the Colors of the Dark. Now, I personally love Rosemary's Baby. I think it is an excellent movie. And funny thing is that when I first watched Rosemary's Baby, I didn't like it. I remember I actually like stopped it halfway, but I'm so glad that I decided to go back and watch it again, because the second time I was more into it. I guess I just wasn't in the right mood at the time. The second time I watched, I was more into it, and it has now become a horror movie that I adore now. And I also have a book, which I have yet to read, but I'm planning on reading. And it is actually, the interesting thing is that the book is actually just like, or the movie is just like the book, like every single little detail in the book, because apparently nobody told Roman Polanski, the director, that, oh yeah, you can like change whatever you want in your adaptation. So like literally everything, I mean, even to like the clothes that they're wearing is exactly like it is in the book, which I think is really interesting. And I mean, for the time being as well, like it was a movie like from 1968. So for the time being, like it was dealing with like themes of like Satanism and witches, which I think, you know, it was very ahead of its time, because now it seems like nowadays everybody wants to be a witch.
Right? Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie?
No. Okay. I really want to, but I'm the type of person, I have to read the book before I watch the movie. And so I own the book. I haven't read the book.
Mhm.
And I'm also like a mood reader. And I know this is probably really stupid, but I'm like, you know, reading Rosemary's Baby would be perfect for when I have my first kid. To read that.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. So I've been like saving that book for when the time comes, and then I can watch the book and the movie. But it sounds awesome because I've heard it has like satanic rituals, and then something to do with the baby. And then there's Roman Polanski, which, you know, he's got ties to the Manson family, all that kind of stuff. Like, so, I mean, I'm all about it. I'm waiting for it, but I'm just waiting for the perfect time to read the book. I'm like really weird when it comes to books. Like, it has to be the perfect time to read it, and that's probably why I love books too.
I'm like so the opposite, because I always notice, it's never intentional, but I always notice that like I end up watching the movie and then I read the book. I mean, it was the same way with Carrie, and we'll be getting to that at the end of the video.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I saw the movie first and then I read the book, but I still had a different experience with the book, which was amazing, even though I watched the movie first, because the book is very different.
It is.
And it's a really great book, by the way.
Yes, you should read it. So it may be an unpopular opinion, but that is my favorite Stephen King book. It was his first novel, and I think it was his best novel. Like, he gets straight to the point. He doesn't have a crappy ending. Like, I don't know. I loved Carrie. And if you're a beginner with Stephen King and Stephen King kind of intimidates you, start off with Carrie, because Carrie's a good one. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's my favorite too. Next to it.
And then the recommendation, I don't think I've heard of your recommendation before.
Well, you're going to love this because it is on Shudder.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about All the Colors of the Dark is that it came out not too long after Rosemary's Baby. It came out in 1972, so early 70s. Yeah, and the interesting thing about this movie is that the way I would describe it is like, it's like Rosemary's Baby if it dealt more with the satanic stuff, and rather than the baby stuff.
Yeah.
And if it was directed by Dario Argento, who directed Suspiria. And if you've ever seen an Argento movie, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, like I I mean, like, I enjoyed the movie, but I wouldn't say like I love it more than Rosemary's Baby, but it's a pretty interesting movie to watch, and it's an Italian horror film, and it
Okay.
stars an actress by the name of Edwig Finch. I believe that's how you say her name, who is like so gorgeous. I mean, like, you cannot stop looking at her, you know, besides all the other crazy stuff going on
Yeah.
in the movie. You cannot stop looking at her because she's so gorgeous. And yeah, you know, as opposed to like Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby, who's also another beautiful woman, but she was more like dainty and kind of like
Yeah.
waifish with like the big eyes and like a little soft voice. And then like Edwig Finch is like very sultry, and she has like the really like not crazy eyebrows, but like, you know, they're very curved, and she has like the long black hair and the pouty lips and everything. And yeah, and there's a lot of nudity in this movie, by the way. Well, there is in Rosemary's Baby, but there's more in All the Colors of the Dark.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out because I've never heard of that one. But the good thing about Shudder is like they have movies from like all over the world, and so
Yeah.
which two of my movies are from different countries and they're like they have subtitles, but oh my god, they're great because they like press every boundary you want them to press, and I'm all about that. Yeah, so I'll have to definitely check that out. What's it called again?
Yeah.
All the colors of the
All the Colors of the Dark.
all the
And
colors.
it has a really cool like movie poster too. Like once you like see it like on Shutter, you'll be like, I know what I'm getting myself into now.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to check that out. So, my first recommendation is if you like Friday the 13th, which if you've seen my other videos, I do not. You know, before Friday the 13th, I tried to give it a try. Like, I tried to watch a couple more movies in the series, which I was told I need to watch the very, like, newer ones. I don't know if that's true, but oh my God, guys, I couldn't get into it. I couldn't. But a movie I did get into was Sleepaway Camp. And if you haven't seen Sleepaway Camp, there's multiple movies in the series, and it is fantastic. I love Sleepaway Camp. And like those campy like horror movies hold a special place in my heart because when I was in high school and college, I was a camp counselor. And so I just love like, you know, the kids at camp and all the camp counselors and all the little activities, but then there's a horror element to it. Oh, I love it. My camp name was Smalls because the kids weren't supposed to know your name, so I went by Smalls. And Sleepaway Camp was just that one movie that was like, yes, yeah, it was great. And you've seen Sleepaway Camp, all the Sleepaway Camps, right?
Oh yeah, like they're like Sleepaway Camp is like probably one of my favorite slashers ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I know some people don't like the sequels because they were so different, but honestly, like I probably like the sequels a little more than the original. Like no diss to the original, obviously, but like the other ones, 2 and 3, they were just like obviously they recast Felissa Rose as Angela with Pamela Springsteen, who, by the way, is Bruce Springsteen's little sister, if nobody knew that, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And they were like, the first Sleepaway Camp was definitely like a lot darker, and like it just had like this really dark, like how do you say it, like essence, I guess, about it. Like, so like it just felt really weird. And I mean, like it dealt with stuff like, you know, like transgender issues, pedophilia, and which I think was like really disturbing. I mean, mainly because too, like the kids in the movie were actually kids. They didn't have like 30-year-olds trying to play teenagers.
Yes, and they were mean. I'm telling you what, like those counselors in that movie, if they worked in any camp that I know of, they've been gone so fast. I would like that one, like I forgot her name, but like the girl counselor, the one that like picks on Angela a lot. Judy, yes. Yeah.
It's one of those movies too where you're like, yeah, like it's not right to kill people, but it's like it kind of deserved it.
No, was it Sleepaway Camp? I want to say 3? No, 2. There's one kill scene that has to do with an outhouse. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3.
Oh yeah, it's 2.
It's 2. Oh my God. That literally was like if I do a video on the worst like death scenes or the scariest death scenes in a horror movie, that's in my top 5. Like no way would I want to die like that. Terrible. But like they have some great kill scenes in Sleepaway Camp if you haven't seen it. I think it's better than the Friday 13th.
Yeah, I'll respect that.
Yeah,
I love both franchises.
Yeah, and I personally liked 1 and 2 the best. 3 was okay. I wasn't a fan of Return to Sleepaway Camp. I think that's all of them.
Oh yeah, like that. Yeah, that one was made. I've seen that one, and that one was made like in the early 2000s. But yeah, like that one, everybody considers that like the worst one.
Yeah, that one wasn't that good. I liked
It was basically like to me, it was basically like just a retelling of the first one. So it's kind of like a remake, but like they gender swapped everything, you know?
Yeah, and it was just I don't know. I couldn't really get on board with it. I watched it. I think that's the last one, right? There's only 4, is there?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Return to Sleepaway Camp was the last one that they ever made.
Yeah, and you guys, if you haven't seen Sleepaway Camp, you need to. Sorry, I got a dog trying to get on my lap.
Yeah.
Here's me talking about Sleepaway Camp. But if you like Sleepaway Camp, you need to get Shudder, which every one of my videos, you are distracting me hardcore. She's like sniffing my lips. Can I help you? Sorry. I would recommend Shudder in all my videos because they just have great stuff. But they have the Joe Bob's Drive-In. I think. Yeah, and they do one on Sleepaway Camp, and Felissa Rose is on the episode. Oh, yeah. Like the commentary and then just the trivia on the movie is fantastic. So you should definitely watch it. Highly recommend.
And she's now been branded as the mangled dick expert. Who else could say they have that title?
Right. Oh,
and by the way, if y'all haven't watched Sleepaway Camp and you don't get that joke, you need to watch it.
You need to watch it. Yep. So Sleepaway Camp. All right, what's your next recommendation for us?
So my next recommendation is a pretty fun one, and that is if you like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then you will like The Hills Have Eyes. And I'm actually wearing my Hills Have Eyes shirt from Fast Custom Tees. Again, not sponsored by them, but hey, I love your stuff, so if y'all want to sponsor me. But yeah, if y'all like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then I highly recommend you watch The Hills Have Eyes if y'all haven't seen it, because basically both movies, they're pretty similar as the plot goes. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about a group of young friends who are going on a road trip through Texas, and then something happens and they end up getting hunted down by this family of cannibals who like want to eat them and everything. The Hills Have Eyes is basically the same thing as like a family, except it's with a family, and they're like kind of like from the suburbs and the city, and they're going on a road trip as well. But then they stop in a gas station and they basically get like bad directions, and then they end up getting stranded in the New Mexico desert, which happens to be inhabited by a family of, you guessed it, cannibals that want to kill them and eat them. And so the rest of the movie is basically, you know, the family trying to survive. And for all you Wes Craven fans, you know, yes, he did direct The Hills Have Eyes. I mean, I'm sure that's pretty obvious, but in case nobody knew that. And it was one of his earlier films. This came out in 1977, I believe. And this was, you know, way before Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street. So yeah, this is like around the time when he made Last House on the Left as well, which I would say also has a pretty similar, except it takes place, and it doesn't take place in like the desert or anything. But yeah, I'm just rambling on about that now. But yeah, like I highly recommend that if you love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you check out The Hills Have Eyes. Not just the original, but also the remake. The remake, honestly, from 2006 is probably like one of my top 5 favorite horror movies in general. It is so good. Like, you ask anybody what is the best horror remake, they will almost always say The Hills Have Eyes, because it was just so well done. I mean, there's no stupid, you know, like twists that they tried to throw in there. There's no stupid characters. Like, that's one of the things I love about The Hills Have Eyes is I love the character development in this movie, because like, especially in the remake, like especially when the family has to like band together to, you know, fight off these mutants in the desert, you feel like all the emotion, like they realize that, like, you know, they're all that they have. So I really love that in a horror film. So yeah, I not only recommend the original, but also the remake as well.
Yeah, so I've seen the remake. It's been a long time, and I don't know why it's been such a long time since I've seen it, because I remember when I first saw it, it scared the crap out of me. It was great. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the original though, and I want to. It's on Shudder.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's on my list to watch, but I need to rewatch the remake, because I remember I loved it so much, but I can't remember what like the character names were or anything like that. But I remember it really scared me when I watched it. Because when
Oh
did it come
yeah,
out? You said like the early 2000s?
it came out in like 2006, so mid 2000s.
Yes, that
Yeah,
sounds
and
right. I
and
was
the
in high school when I saw it. Yeah.
and the remake is definitely gorier than the original. So if you love gore, then you're gonna love the remake. But
Yeah.
it's not like that overdone gore where it just takes away from everything else. Like I said, everything about the remake was just really well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember enjoying it. I need to rewatch it.
And you need to watch the original.
I'm so bad about watching the originals too, but I need to because I know like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original is way better than the remake.
I like both of them equally.
Really? See, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like the original, you can tell that there wasn't a lot of like special effects. Like
Hmm.
so it made it seem like it's an actual guy doing this. Like and so it just seems so realistic because there weren't all those effects, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just like that nostalgic factor, like that oldness to it, I don't know, it was like super creepy to me when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And like also so we both live in Texas and I've been to like the gas station that
Me too.
yes the slaughter like what is it the barbecue or
Yeah.
yeah I didn't get any
Yeah.
barbecue there but
And you saw like on my social media, right, that recently we had taken a trip to like more of the filming locations.
yes see I didn't even know about that I just knew about the
The
gas
gas
station
station.
yeah so
Yeah,
I went out there
yeah, a lot of the other like from both the remake and the original, a lot of them they're not too hard to find, like, and they're pretty accessible to get to. Like the Crawford Mill from the remake. Oh my god. We were there during the day. It was so creepy being there. Like I'm not even bullshitting. Like supposedly it's really haunted, and I'm not bullshitting either. Like I wanted to like go to the other side of the building, and I'm not kidding you. Like I heard like a thumping noise inside, so I'm
nah
like,
get out of here
okay, yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. It's really creepy, but it's really interesting to be there, and it's like you get like that thought, like, wow, like I'm standing in the same place where like cameras and actors were
yeah
standing, you know?
See, even like the gas station was kind of creepy because it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like when you
Yeah.
think of middle of nowhere, there's nothing around. There's nothing except for this random gas station. And when we went in, so like they serve barbecue, like they serve like I don't know pulled pork or whatever.
Yeah.
There were like locals coming in getting a sandwich, and you could tell like they were old country folks going in there. Like they weren't people like. I was the only one in there that probably watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and was there for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because otherwise, there was these old men who were like old country folks getting like a sandwich, and it was kind of creepy because it like just even had like the atmosphere of the
Like
movie.
it's like they stepped right out of the movie.
Yes, exactly. And so it was kind of interesting people watching there, and I'm in there like, hey, can I get a T-shirt? Because they sold T-shirts there. I'm like, I'm here for the T-shirt, not a sandwich.
Like I'm just a horror weirdo.
Yeah. But if you live in the Texas area, I would definitely suggest taking a look at these different places. I'm gonna have to check out the Crawford Mill because that sounds awesome.
Hey, maybe when life finally gets back to normal, maybe we could take a road trip together.
Yes, we could do it at night when it's actually haunted.
Oh my god, no, not at night, please. That's the one thing is like I've always said, like, imagine being at these places at night. No,
Right?
I'm just gonna nope it out of there.
Yeah, no, that's gonna have to be on our bucket list once all this
Right?
stuff is over and done with.
Yeah.
I want to check that out. I didn't even think about that because I think I was looking up stuff and all I could find was the gas station. I was like,
Mhm.
oh cool. Yeah, so definitely should check that out. So my next recommendation is if you like The Exorcist and Insidious, then you should check out May the Devil Take You To. Again, it's on Shudder, and I think all my movies are probably on Shudder. But
Seriously, Shudder, sponsor us, please.
right? I mean, I just find all my good movies on Shudder. I don't even mean to. Like, I was doing the Terror Thursday stuff for Amazon, but then I got stuck on Shudder, and I've just been watching so many movies on Shudder that like I haven't even been watching an Amazon Prime movie. Yeah, but if you're a horror person, get Shudder because it's awesome. I mean, I'm addicted. But so May the Devil Take You To is a sequel. And I didn't know that until after I watched this movie. But the original May the Devil Take You is on Netflix. And it's an Indonesian movie. So there's going to be like subtitles and everything. I'm telling you, this is one of the freakiest movies I've ever seen. It is fantastic. So it has to do with like exorcisms. But I say it's like, but it has like the atmosphere of like Insidious, where there's just like, you know, a little thing in the background where like you see like a face or like some kind of demon and then they just pop out. It's just, it's good. It's hard to explain, but I feel like the May the Devil Take You To was better than the original, the one on Netflix. So if you guys have seen this, correct me because I may have to rewatch it because, you know, it's in subtitles. But I feel like the original doesn't really coincide with the sequel. Like there are two of the same characters, but I feel like the storylines are kind of different. So like the second one has to deal with these kids who are from an orphanage. I don't want to give away too much, so I'm trying to figure out how to word this. But the first one doesn't mention anything about the orphanage. And so if you guys have seen it, correct me if I'm wrong and tell me if I need to rewatch the original. But I don't think the original and the second part go together. I could be wrong. And I don't think
that always happens with sequels. I always notice that.
Like I feel like there's just a storyline. It makes the storyline more confusing because there's a lot of holes in it. But again, there's like subtitles and I was reading the whole time, so I could have looked away and missed something. Totally possible. But I don't think that you need to watch the first one in order to get the second one. I personally like the second one better. I mean, the original was good too, but the second one just like, I mean, blew it out of the water.
Sometimes that happens too. Sometimes the sequel is better than the first one.
Yes, and that doesn't happen very often. But yeah, this one, I mean, it's crazy. And if you don't mind like subtitles, you know, I feel like there really wasn't even that much reading either because there was just so much happening and it was creepy. Like they're actual like demons and stuff. Like it'll creep you out. So I highly recommend it. And if you've heard my videos before, I'm not a big fan of The Exorcist. Like possession movies and stuff usually don't scare me. I don't know why. Like they just don't. But this movie, oh, it creeped me out. It was, yeah, you should definitely watch it.
And again, I'm the opposite because possession movies freak me out.
And you definitely need to watch this because there's just so much going on in like the demons and just like, it's like Insidious, you know, like where there was like little things here and there that you got the creepiness, but by the end it was like this huge climax of craziness. Like, what did I just watch? That's what this one is. So definitely should check it out. And you haven't seen it or anything, right?
No, but I do see it like advertised on Shudder a lot. So then whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, Abby.
Yes.
But I definitely will have to check it out one day.
Yeah, especially if you have time to actually like read what's going on. Because the subtitles, it's not one that you just want to have on and like be on your phone and stuff like that because then you're gonna miss stuff. But it's good. It's good. I gotta rewatch it again because I feel like there may be some stuff I'm missing, but it's good. It's good. So what other recommendation do you have for us?
My third recommendation is one that you've heard of, and that is if you liked Hellfest, then you will like the movie Haunt, which again is on Shudder. And you actually recommended Haunt to me, and Haunt was a movie that I had heard about for a couple of months. Like I heard so many people say like, oh, like it's so good and all this, but like I just never like really like I guess like cared to like sit down and watch it. So it was kind of just like there. But then one night we were bored, and then we were on Shudder, and we're just like, oh look, and it was around Halloween time, so it was more perfect. So we're just like, oh look, this movie Haunt, like we've heard about this, and it takes place on Halloween. Like let's just watch it. So I was like, okay. And then I'm really surprised by how much like I loved it. It had everything that I looked for in, especially in a modern horror movie. The characters weren't stupid or annoying. The final girl, Harper, is very relatable. I mean, like she feels real, which I love. And especially like her situation in the movie, like she's actually in an abusive relationship, and that comes into play a little later in the movie. And I feel like that's like a subject that isn't really touched on, especially like in horror movies with young people. So I applaud the movie for, you know, like touching on a subject like that. I mean, like that in the beginning of the movie when like her friends come over and they're like, hey, you ready to go to the haunted house? And they like show her like putting makeup on to cover a black eye. Like I was like, man, like that's some real shit. Because I mean, like, unfortunately, there are not just girls. I mean, like, there's guys that go through that as well, whether it be like with the same sex or the opposite. So again, I applaud Haunt for touching on a subject like that, even if it's just kind of brief. I like that about the movie. So Hellfest was another one that I remember me and my boyfriend went to go see it when it first came out. I believe it was last year, I think. And it was perfect because we saw it on October 1st. And that was one where we were both like, I'm not really sure if like we're going to like this, like just with modern horror and all, our gripes with that and stuff. And it was another movie where like, wait, it didn't completely blow us away, but like it was decent, And both of these movies, what they have in common is that they're both about messed up haunted houses around Halloween time. But I would say that Hellfest is just like a watered down version of Haunt, basically. But they're both pretty good movies. But I would say that Haunt is the better one. It's a little more fun, I would say, and there's a lot more interesting like twists and turns in that movie, and definitely a little bit more gore in there. Like the way I would describe Haunt is like it's like Hellfest if it met Saw. So that piques your interest. If you love movies like Saw and you love movies about fun houses, then yeah, I highly recommend Haunt. Also Hellfest if y'all haven't seen it.
Yeah, so I've never heard of Hellfest. You said that came out recently?
Yeah, it came out like again, I can't exactly remember, but I know it came out like either last year or the year before. But yeah, and also it also gets bonus points because it has not in a big role, even though the advertising makes it seem that way. But it also features Tony Todd, who if you know Candyman, he
Yep.
played Candyman, so he's in that movie as well. Not in a big role, but it's like kind of like a little treat for all his diehard horror fans.
I do remember seeing that poster. I don't know why I never even thought about watching that though. I don't know why. Like that's something I've never even. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't go and see that or anything. But I love the trope of like haunted houses. That's like one of my, or like not like haunted houses like an actual house, but like
messed up like fun houses, carnivals. Yeah.
Yes, like carnivals and like amusement parks and stuff like that. I love that trope. So I'm gonna have to watch that. That is definitely gonna have to be on my list. But Haunt, you guys, if you haven't seen it, it is great. The one thing that I find in good horror movies, like if I'm gonna say that that is a good horror movie, I put myself in the situation, and if I can't figure out how to get out of that situation, but the character does and they outsmart me, it's a great movie. And in that movie, I'm like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't know. And she was smart. She was really smart. I'm like, if I wouldn't have thought of to do that, I probably would have died early on. But yeah, she's badass. Like, she is awesome. The final girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommend. And again, it's on Shudder. So most of these movies, I'm pretty sure all the movies I'm recommending are on Shudder.
Right?
Pretty sure. So
and if they aren't, they're probably on Amazon Prime. So there's also that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Hellfest is on Amazon Prime. I mean, I want to say it is, but you have to check.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look that up because that sounds.
I think too. Like you can even get like the Blu-ray really cheap, like less than $10.
Oh, really?
Especially since Black Friday's coming up.
Yes. I've got some movies on my list, so. Okay, so my next recommendation, and it's another foreign movie, but if you like 28 Days Later and you like zombie movies, I highly suggest The Train to Busan. Like, that movie is so good. It's a Korean film. Have you seen The Train to Busan yet?
I know I've heard of it and I've seen the poster. I've definitely seen 28 Days Later.
So if you like fast zombies, which I'm a big fan of fast zombies over slow zombies, because fast zombies, I couldn't outrun them and they would just kill me. And
that's just like a scary thought in general. I mean, like fast zombies.
Yes, like the Train to Busan. So basically, you have this like father, and he is divorced. I think recently divorced from his wife, and it's his weekend to have his daughter. Well, he's like this big like businessman and he's never home. And so it's his weekend to have his daughter, but she's like upset because he's not spending enough time with her. And it's like her birthday, and big thing about that. Well, she asked her mom if she can go home. And so she tells her dad for her birthday, she wants to go back to her mom's house, which is in Busan. Busan, I think was like, I'm probably butchering the name, but she wants to go back to see her mom in Busan. And so the dad agrees, and they decide to he decides to get on the train with her to take her back to her mom. Well, while they're on the train, a huge outbreak occurs where zombies, like people are getting like this zombie disease. And one of the zombies ends up on the train. And it is so scary. It sounds like, when I'm seeing it, it sounds like it's not that exciting, but I'm telling you, this movie is so gory. It's so scary. Like your adrenaline is rushing the whole time. And then the ending will literally, I can't remember the last time I actually cried in a horror movie. This movie made me cry. Like I literally straight up cried at the end. It's just a great film in general. And I highly suggest it. This is now my favorite zombie movie, hands down. So good. And again, it's in Korean, so there are subtitles, but like I said, I feel like there's not very many words because there's just so much action going on that you just get sucked in the story that you don't even need to really know what they're saying, if that makes sense. But
I've seen some films like that. I get what you mean.
Yeah, I highly suggest that you guys like it. It was always like on like Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. I know it's on Shudder right now, but it may still be on Netflix. And I remember always seeing the poster, but I was like, it's in Korean. I don't want to read subtitles. I'm just now getting into movies where like they're foreign, and like I just read the subtitles, because a lot of times these foreign movies press boundaries that US movies aren't even close to pressing.
Oh yeah.
And it's just really good. And just the storyline with the Train to Busan is just so good. Like there's an actual storyline. It rips your heart. You get invested in these characters, because it's not just the dad and the daughter, but it's the other people who are on the train that you like really like feel for these people on the train. And you're just like, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, but it's scary at the same time. So it's like a horror and a drama all mixed in one. And it's good. It's good.
Yeah, like that reminds me. Yeah, like that reminds me of like what I was just saying about The Hills Have Eyes. Like, I love when horror movies can do that. Like, they can not only scare you, but they can also make you feel emotion. Like you just said, like the ending to this movie, it's a zombie movie, but it made you cry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good, you guys. Like, so good. If you like zombies, if you like The Walking Dead, and you like 20, I say 28 Days Later because they both have the fast zombies. Like, these zombies are freaking nuts. Like, I don't even know how you'd survive this.
I wouldn't.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I don't know how I would get away with something like that. It's craziness. But highly suggest. I know it's on Netflix. I don't know if it's on Amazon Prime, and it's on Shudder. So check it out. Like, it's literally in my top 5 favorite horror movies now. Hands down. Great movie. All right. What else do you suggest for us today?
Well, we're getting to the bottom 2.
I know.
But these last 2 are going to be some pretty fun ones, so I'm still hyped about this. And my next recommendation is that if you liked The Shining, then you will probably like A Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
Have you seen either of those?
I haven't seen A Clockwork Orange because, again, I want to read the book first. But I have seen The Shining. I love The Shining. I know that it's not Stephen King's like favorite movie adaptation, but it's great. And I'm in the middle of the book of The Shining because, again, I'm a mood reader, and I want to be cold when I read the book. So last Christmas, I went home to Indiana while it was snowing, and I tried to finish it, but I'm like literally, I have like a fourth of the book left. So I'm hoping to finish it the next time it gets cold. But it's good. It's good.
Which in Texas, you never know.
Exactly. But so yeah, I haven't seen A Clockwork Orange though, but the book is on my list too.
Oh, yeah. Like, the reason why I recommended these 2 movies to go hand in hand is because, to me, like, even though like A Clockwork Orange was not written by Stephen King or anything, they're both based on books. So obviously Stephen King wrote The Shining, and then Anthony Burgess wrote A Clockwork Orange. But the reason why I recommend them is because they just have such similar vibes. Like they're really weird and confusing. I mean, just like the imagery, like if you loved the imagery like in The Shining, like all this, like the blood in the elevator and
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
twin girls and like all that random weird stuff, then you will probably like the imagery in A Clockwork Orange. Now, A Clockwork Orange, like people always like categorize it as a horror movie, but it's not really a horror movie. Like it's really hard to really like categorize that movie just because like it's so weird and so like it's just such a weird movie. I mean, it's like Eraserhead. I don't even know what to categorize Eraserhead as. And that's another weird movie that if anybody liked either of these movies, then maybe I'll like Eraserhead.
I haven't seen that one either. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. So is that a horror movie then? Eraserhead? That's considered like a horror movie?
Yeah, but again, it's like it's such a weird movie that like it's just so hard to categorize movies like that just because they're so
Yeah.
strange, they're so weird, they're so out there. I mean, especially Clockwork Orange, because A Clockwork Orange deals with themes of rape, and there's a lot of nudity in that movie. And this movie came out in like very early 70s, and much like The Exorcist with the book of A Clockwork Orange is a lot more graphic with the rape stuff. So if anybody like is kind of triggered by that stuff, like I would recommend like either not watching it or like going into it like preparing yourself, because it is pretty brutal stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that the movie is really brutal, and so is the book. I want to read the book before I watch the movie. Now, The Shining, I saw that when I was a kid, so I didn't read the book before I saw The Shining, but The Shining has always been like a top. It's actually a Christmas movie for me, you guys. I watch it every like Christmas. Exactly, exactly. It's snowy, and so it's my Christmas movie, but yeah, I'm gonna have to watch A Clockwork Orange. I know a lot of people recommend it, especially the book, and it's been on my list. I need to read it. I need to get to it. I have so many books that I need to read and the movies to watch. It's like not even funny, right? Right. So my next recommendation is if you like paranormal activity or like any kind of like found footage movies, I highly suggest you watching The Taking of Deborah Logan. Oh my goodness. That movie was ridiculous. Crazy. Have you seen The Taking of Deborah Logan?
Again, it's another one of those movies that I've heard so many people talking about, and they refer to it as a that scene movie.
Yeah. Yeah. You should watch it. But you're not a big fan of found footage, are you, though?
No, I am. Like, I do enjoy found footage movies. I mean, I like you just said. That's ironic because I like watched Paranormal Activity, the first one, just the other night,
Oh, yeah.
and I love movies like Blair Witch, and I
That's
know a
right.
lot of
Yeah.
people. I know a lot of people don't really like found footage because it's either like, oh, they're always the same, or they're stupid, or like I've even heard some people say like I don't like them because I get motion sickness because of the camera.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do love found footage movies like that because I think that I've always said that realism is what makes a horror movie scary, and that's why I love found footage movies because you feel like even though it was fake, like say like Paranormal Activity, oh my god, like that movie, I remember when it came out, everybody was talking about that movie and freaking out about it. I even remember like a girl in my school, in my middle school class saying like that actually happened to somebody, and I'm like, no, it didn't, but it's fun to pretend.
Yeah, I know found footage is like my favorite genre within horror movies. Like they just creep me out because it's like you're so in the zone, like you feel like you're actually there because
Yeah.
it's found footage. So I, those movies literally creep me out. And The Taking of Deborah Logan, if you liked Paranormal Activity and you liked Blair Witch, this one's really creepy. So basically, the premise is there's this woman who has Alzheimer's disease, or she's starting to get like Alzheimer's, and she's having trouble paying for like her treatments and everything. So her daughter signs up for this like documentary. Like there's this medical student who like is doing a study on Alzheimer's, and she wants to like film the progression of her mom from like the early stages up until the end stages, and then they'll help pay for like treatments and stuff. Well, while they're filming, as you would guess it, some crazy stuff goes on that they realize maybe it's not Alzheimer's, maybe there's some other stuff going on. And I'm telling you, this old woman in this movie is freaking crazy, like nutso. And I don't want to ruin it, but there are some scenes that I'm just like, what is going on? If anybody knows what I'm talking about, the snake mouth scene, that's all I'll say. The snake mouth. I was not expecting that, and that really like grossed me out. But yeah, there's a lot of snake scenes in this movie, and it's just really creepy. But it's good. It's good. It creeped me out the first time I saw it. Definitely high on my list.
Yeah, I know it has,
I think you'd like it.
yeah, I know it has, I know it, I've heard like it has something to do with like possession, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. I don't want to give it away,
Yeah, that
but
like I don't know much about like, you know, like those scenes, but yeah, that's just like the little stuff that I've heard. But it does sound like something I would watch, so that'll have to go on my watch list.
yeah, it's so good. I highly recommend it. Okay, what is the next one you have for us?
Well, my last recommendation, which is probably my favorite one here, is if you liked Carrie, the original, not the remake. I absolutely hated the remake. Not the 2002 one, 2013 one. But if you liked the original Carrie, then I recommend you also check out The Craft. And you are wearing a Craft shirt right now.
Yeah,
You
one of
came
my
prepared.
favorite movies. Literally top three favorite movies would be like The Craft and Practical Magic are my top two. And The Craft. Me too. I had a group of friends. I don't know if they're watching it in like middle school and high school. We were so close, and we used to watch The Craft all the time. So then, of course, we decided we were gonna be like the Craft girls, and we were each like Earth, Wind, Fire, Air, and that's how like we described each other. And we swore that we were, the next Craft pack. So we were like obsessed with that movie. But yeah, they
Yeah,
were.
that's how me and my best friend are, because like that's the movie that like her and I we bond over the most. And so we don't have two other people in our coven, but it's like we only need each other. And so we decided like you're Bonnie and I'm Nancy. So
Yes.
and we call each
Yes.
other
See,
our best.
I had my like it was four of us, so like we like literally completed the whole thing. I don't know which one like, because we went by like the elements, like earth, wind, fire, air, and I remember I was fire. That's all I
Yeah.
remember. But it was like back in middle school. But they were the original Mean Girls.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before there was Mean Girls, there was The Craft.
Yes.
It's like the goth Mean Girls.
Exactly. If you guys haven't seen The Craft, what are you doing? I mean, if you're like any kind of horror, but it's not even really horror. It's just like teenage 90s
Yeah.
movie. You need to watch it. It's a classic. It's great.
Like if Regina George went crazy and killed everybody.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like that's what made. Yeah, like I'm sure everybody has heard about the Craft Legacy, the remake, sequel, whatever the fuck it is. And no, I don't plan on watching it anytime
Well, I don't
soon.
want to ruin it. I haven't watched it. Everyone's asked me if I watched it. I'm like, I don't know if I can. I really don't. Because I feel like I'm just going to hate it.
But like, I mean, the original just like captured like you said, like that 90s teen angst, like the fashion, the music, and everything. It's like a time capsule movie. It was made during that time and it was perfect. So it's like, why remake it? Yeah, like the reason why I compare Carrie and The Craft is because I feel like they were both made in completely different decades. Carrie came out in the 70s, The Craft came out in the 90s, but like I feel like they have very similar like plots when it comes to like like the misfit girl who everybody picks on and thinks she's weird, but then it turns out that she has like these supernatural powers. And they're also like coming of age stories, and they also deal with themes of like feminism, puberty, all that stuff. And then the kids push the misfit too far, and then they end up using their powers for bad. But like in Carrie, Carrie was another one of those movies where it's like they deserved it.
Yes,
And when she
yes.
killed everybody at the prom, And then the craft is the same way too, because you know each girl in the circle is dealing with like their own problems. You know, like you have Bonnie who's dealing with insecurity because of her burn scars. Nancy who's dealing with poverty, and Sarah who is the newcomer and at the school, and she, you know, it's revealed that yeah, like she is suicidal and she tried to kill herself.
Yep.
And then you have the biggest one, I think, is the character of Rochelle, who happens to be the only African American, it seems like, at that school, and she's dealing with racism. I mean, like that scene when like the blonde girl like basically tells her like, oh, I don't like you because I don't like,
Yeah.
you know, I won't say the word obviously, but people can probably guess what it is. I'm like, man, that bitch deserves to get her hair like falling.
Yeah, I'm like that. You're glad that's all that happened. Like, she could have gotten a lot worse, in my opinion. And that movie was just so good. It was just so relatable. Like I said, in middle school, that was like mine and my friends' movie. I'm pretty sure like every time we had a sleepover, which was like every weekend, like my group of friends, we were so close. Like every weekend we'd be at one of our houses. Like, you know, we just spent every weekend together. And we always watched The Craft. It was just one of the things we had The Craft on when we were talking. Like, it was just so relatable. And if you didn't play Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, your childhood was just not good. But like, I mean, that's where, if you guys have ever played that at a slumber party, you know, the Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board. That totally came from like The Craft. And I swear, like every slumber party that we had, we always tried it with each other. Like, all right, guys, if we just, you know, push our inner powers, like we can make each other like lift up. It never worked.
Happening.
Yeah, it never worked. They usually use me because I was the tiniest. I'm telling you, even with how tiny I was in high school, they weren't lifting me up with their fingers. But if you guys have, hey, if you guys have been to a sleepover party where Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board has worked, please comment because I would love to know. I would love to know.
Because like, and it's funny too because it seems like now it's just like with the movie Mean Girls, it seems like now every girl is obsessed with The Craft and like quoting it and like wearing shirts that say like we are the weirdos.
Yeah.
That, and it seems like everybody wants to be a witch now.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like when I saw this at Hot Topic, like when The Craft was coming back, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to get that shirt. But now like The Craft is like everywhere. Like it is like the cool thing right now.
Right?
Which is like Nightmare Before Christmas. Like I remember when that stuff was coming out, I was like, I didn't even know that anybody else watched that.
Yeah.
But it's really funny that you brought up The Craft because my last recommendation is if you like The Craft, you should watch Ginger Snaps. Now, yes, if you guys have not seen Ginger Snaps, it's on Shudder right now. And instead of like the whole witches trope coming of age story, it's about werewolves and a coming of age story. So basically it's about these two sisters who are misfits and you know they're like obsessed with like death. Like I mean like weirdly obsessed with death. Like they take these like pictures, these crazy pictures of them like dying and they come up with like scenarios of how they can die and how people can die. Like they're just like the weirdos of their school. Well, one of them gets bit by a werewolf, and yeah, she starts wreaking havoc on their little city, and her sister is trying to save her. But again, it's just like this coming of age story. It deals with like misfits, bullying, puberty, boys, like drug, alcohol use. Like I mean, it just has everything that you want in like a teen angst, and it's fantastic. I know you've seen Ginger Snaps.
Oh yeah, like I love Ginger Snaps. I think Ginger Snaps is another very underrated horror movie. And what I loved what it did was that it took the premise of like how scary is it to become a woman, you know, like getting your period and having like boys like actually pay attention to you and everything because your body's changing, and combine that with turning into a werewolf. And I think that's so hilarious because I'm like, yeah, a woman on having PMS is very similar to a werewolf that's about to bite your throat.
Yes, like that movie is so good, you guys. If you haven't seen Ginger Snaps, I think is that a 90s movie too, I'm guessing.
Oh no, it came out in 2000, so it's
2000, early 2000s.
Yeah, very early 2000s, and it's a Canadian movie, so it's one of those movies where like you watch it and just like looking at like the settings and everything, you're like, yep, this is Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no surprise too is that whenever Ginger Snaps first came out, it was it was about a year after the Columbine High School massacre happened.
Hey guys, it's editing me here. So I was going through the footage and some bad news. My microphone actually went completely out during the last 5 minutes, so there was like no audio. So I'm just gonna end the video right here, but hopefully that'll never happen again. I bought a new microphone, so hopefully everything is good from here. But if you guys like this kind of video, then subscribe to my channel. Next week, I will be having Kat back on my channel and we'll be discussing our favorite holiday horror movies. So yeah, I'd love to see you guys again. And again, thank you so much. Bye.